Hello, ladies, and welcome to day 2 of Nectar, the Well-Nourished Woman. I'm so excited to be here with you all. I was sharing a little bit with the ladies before we hit record that this morning was wild and frenetic in my home. My daughter, she's almost 2, running everywhere and making a mess, as kids do. And I'm so grateful for that part of my life and the opportunity to come and sink in with you ladies. It's like, I receive just as much from these experiences. So I just want to say thank you so much for being here with me. I love everything that has to do with women's empowerment, sisterhood, self-care, and as I was sharing this kind of revolution, and there's going to be a better word at some point. I feel like I'm going to come up with a better phrase for it, but you know what I mean? It's like, I do feel like we are creating a movement of women who are like ready to go. And when I say that, again, it's not even about any I love that Zoom does these random things. But again, I'm just going to share some of my more personal philosophies here. And one of the things I wanted to share yesterday that I didn't in the opening, just because we went straight in with Aliona, who was in Poland, is, you're going to hear a lot of things this weekend, and some things may totally not resonate with you. And I know you know that. All of you are total, sovereign, empowered women. But it's okay to take what works and leave what doesn't. That to me is the whole process of being human, and part of what we're going to actually get into in the process we're going to do here in a little bit. We're going to go into a tantric meditation, and I started sharing a little bit of my story yesterday of how I had all these external people who didn't know me, who were experts in their field, telling me things about myself. And so my whole process since I've been 16 years old and I'm 38 now has been like, well, wait, what's true for me? So I actually think it's good sometimes that you hear information that you're like, yes to that, or no, that doesn't land, or maybe it's like, that makes me uncomfortable and that's new information. Maybe I'm gonna sit with that for a minute, because maybe automatically I want to say no or yes even, but actually there's a part of me that I don't really know how I feel about. Let me again integrate that. Let me digest that. And so that is actually the intersection between all of this and Ayurveda, which we haven't really even gotten into yet. But to me, that if you ask somebody what this whole philosophy of Ayurveda is, for example, which is the science of life, it's an ancient science of how to care for your physical body out of India. It's all about digestion, they'll tell you. It's like, how strong is your digestion? And to me, Tantra is all about digestion as well, but more about digestion of information. And so again, how does the digestive system work? You take in something, your stomach churns it around, and then your body decides, like, what if this is nutrients that I'm going to absorb and assimilate, and what is this is waste that my body's going to eliminate, right? So we all know we are receiving so much information more than ever. We're in the information overload moment. This is our generation is experiencing something that has never happened before, that we have this much information coming at us. And so it's more important than ever that we hone our ability to really sort out between this information of what is meant for us to like actually absorb and integrate, and what is like, that's okay, I'm just going to eliminate that. Even if it's for now, maybe that information will circle back around later and I'll assimilate it in a different way. But for now, maybe that's just too much, or not correct for me. So again, you'll learn a lot about me, which is, again, this is why I loved when I discovered Tantra. I was like, other people think like me, I've always been this person that I'm like, I don't really think in the terms of good and bad. I just don't. I think in terms of things that, for me, for example, for my own behaviors or my own habits and addictions, I'm like, what's empowering or not empowering? So I think a lot about that. Like, this is something that's really empowering for me. This is something that's disempowering, but I don't like to, again, maybe because I'm a Latin woman whose parents were raised very Catholic, and I have my whole life been like moving through this like good girl, bad girl thing, which, like, let's be honest, I'm both, in this definition, right? And so I don't think in terms of good and bad, but I do think in terms of, again, what is empowering versus what's disempowering, or what's useful versus what's not useful. So I find that helps us stop creating these the word again? It's I want to say war, but it's more like adversarial energies where we see this so much right now in the world, right? Where somebody's like, this is what's right and this is what's wrong. And if you believe in the wrong, well, then I got to come up against you, right? Like, and we got to either get you to see things my way or we got to eliminate you. And again, those are tactics of war, and I'm not interested in that personally. And these are such deep conversations. Of course, we can continue to unpack these things as we go. But again, what I really want to share and how I really want to utilize this time today is to first have a bit of a tantric meditation, which again is an opportunity to go in and really scan ourselves, and get really present with how we're feeling. Because again, with so much, even on this conference, with so much information coming, sometimes, we leave ourselves and we go to that person, right? And their opinions, and like, they're so amazing and that's so wonderful. And then there's a moment where you're like, well, what about me? Where am I at? Like, how's my body feeling? How's my heart feeling? And so I just want to share that anything, again, if you follow me on social media, I'm obsessed with reading. I always have been. I love, 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 love receiving new information. And again, it's just one part of the equation. So my biggest stand in the world is for women being connected to their intuitions. And so that's what we're going to do this morning, is a bit of a deeper practice on how can we drop in to what's really true for us. And again, to quiet the noise, again, whether noise that we like or noise that we don't like any noise, and just come back to ourselves. So if you're open, we'll start the morning with this practice. So if you want to get comfortable, can clear your space. I see La Victoria got her cleansing going on. If you want to get some sage, yeah, Palo Santo Copal. We can always just clear the space with a nice little like energetic mind wind as well. We don't need anything external, but we'll go ahead and close our eyes. We'll begin to drop in to our bodies, bringing all of our attention, our awareness, and our energy back to ourselves now. Bringing our full focus to our breath. Beautiful inhales, relaxing exhales. Feeling ourselves filling up. And then also grounding down. Taking a moment of gratitude for this breath. This breath that is our life. We're going to start to imagine a waterfall of energy coming down the back of our head, back of our shoulders, back of our spine, back of our sits bones, the back of our legs, down to our feet, and down to the earth. And invite you to start to feel some roots coming out from your tailbone, from your feet, wherever you're connected to the earth here. And really feeling that descent. The roots going down, 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 so deep. Knowing that the deeper those roots go, the more anchored we are. The more Pachamama can hold us. Keep us sturdy and straight and strong. And I also want to imagine those roots coming out from all sides. I'm starting to visualize how the roots that come out from the sides, they intertwine and they communicate with the roots of the other women in this circle. Of the women that will be watching the replay and the women of our lives who we love, this sisterhood, this network. I'm feeling the intelligence of how much we are held by those around us, even as we stand tall and strong and straight on our own. This ability to share resources, to ask for help, to give when we are in overflow. This is how a healthy ecosystem works. Every tree knows it is only as healthy as every tree in that ecosystem. We are those trees, ladies. We'll take that moment of gratitude, of the connection with others, and then we'll start to draw back the energy and attention, the nutrients from Pachamama, back up through our spine, the trunk of our tree. And we'll take a moment to align all of our chakras, our power centers, our energy centers, starting with visualizing a beautiful glowing red ball at our root. And each time we come to a center, we're going to imagine it lighting up and expanding its aura. And it dissolves any blocks, any stagnations in that area. That beautiful red of the root, glowing, strong, dissolving any blocks. Really feeling the strengthening of that sense of security, that we have exactly what we need. A roof over our heads, and nourishing food to eat. Clothes on our back. We have those basics. And if we don't, we trust that Pachamama wants that for us, each one of us. She provides for her children that way. That those things are available to each and every one of us. And then we come up a little more. We come to the beautiful orange of our sexual organs, this creative zone, this pleasure portal, where we can create babies or create whole worlds. This area fuels our artistry. Taking a moment to dissolve any blocks that keep us from feeling like we are not able to create, to express ourselves, to dance and sing and paint and write. Seeing that beautiful orange glowing, expanding, dissolving any blocks. And we'll move up to our solar plexus from the sacral zone. And our solar plexus are a beautiful, bright yellow. And this is where we draw upon that safety and security, that creativity, and how we express it in the world. The part of us that really penetrates, that moves forward with knowingness, with clarity, confidence. That beautiful willpower center. Seeing that yellow lighting up, expanding, dissolving any blocks, any stagnation. And then we'll continue up to our hearts. Beautiful emerald green. Flourishing, beautiful, prosperous energy of Pachamama. The place of abundance and overflow, so much love, an infinite amount of love lives in this space, unconditional. The Sophia, Maria, Christ consciousness. I always imagine a golden thread that comes out from the heart and goes out around the circle, connecting all the hearts. The center that unifies us, reminds us that we all want the same things. To be happy and healthy, for there to be peace. Seeing it expanding, glowing brighter. Dissolving any blocks, any stagnation. We move up to our throat. It's beautiful blue. Feeling the connection all the way down from the heart to the solar plexus, the sacral, the root. Feeling how all that energy fuels our ability to speak well, to speak with kindness and clarity, to speak with curiosity and confidence. To cast spells that create the world we want to live in, not reinforce that which is ready to transform. There's an immense amount of power and responsibility that lives in this area. Later this evening, we'll be doing a lot of singing. But for now, we're just going to say thank you. Also feel to do a little ho'oponopono for all of us. To really forgive ourselves for ways we've misused our voices in the past. Either to hurt ourselves or to hurt others. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. Feeling that blue lighting up, expanding, dissolving any blocks, any stagnation. I'll continue up to our third eye, visualizing a beautiful purple. I'm beginning to connect to this visionary part of ourselves. The part that receives visions from the unseen realms. Part of us that sees things that are not physical yet, but we know that they're possible. We can see them, we can feel them. We trust those visions we receive that inform us of what's ours to do, what's possible to create here in this earthly realm, in co-creation with the all that is. Feeling that energy center lighting up, expanding, dissolving any blocks, any stagnation. And continue up to our crown. Part of us that really opens to connect those godly, heavenly realms. Can visualize a violet or golden white light, whichever is most true for you. It's the part of us that's connected to the Akashic records, to the great mystery, this place where all the blueprints live, everything that has happened and what is to come. And I always just take a moment of a deep bow to the vastness that is beyond anything we will ever comprehend. And yet there are parts of our soul that are very much connected to that wisdom, to that architecting of the future, acknowledging those parts of us. Seeing that light expanding and opening, dissolving any blocks, any stagnation. We'll take a moment to feel our branches sprouting up and out, those leaves unfurling to receive the codes from the sun. And these are very real codes. This is physics here, the way that the light rays travel. They carry information. They inform us how to grow. Taking a moment to acknowledge that big, beautiful ball of energy in the sky that is very much connected to the lights that each one of us have inside. Feeling the warmth of that sun, receiving the transmission of our own sun, our internal sun. And as we start to come back down, we're going to descend again back into our bodies. And we're going to arrive back at our womb space. I always have a visual of my womb space like a galaxy, like a portal that opens up into the cosmos. And I want to invite each one of you to start to visualize a throne there in your womb. There's a lot of talk these days of kings and queens, and yet the only place that we have dominion over are our own bodies, our own minds. We can visualize ourselves in our highest, whatever that means for you. Visualizing that highest part of yourself that knows, that deepest part of yourself that knows. To sit in that throne, to take her rightful place as the queen of her own womb, of her own intuition, part of her that knows, of us that knows beyond rhyme or reason. We feel something in our bones. And this is the part of us that's connected to the wisdom of Pachamama, who is the Earth Mother and also so much more. She's the cosmic mother, the divine mother. And this mother archetype, whether we are physical mothers or not, this archetype of the woman who understands what it looks like to take care of the whole. But understands what it looks like and feels like to make sure that everyone is taken care of. And who knows that in order to care for anyone outside of her, she must care for herself. She must nourish herself, mind, body, and spirit. She must rest. She must give herself space, stillness, quiet, time in nature, time for introspection. She must listen to her own heart's desires. Because her deepest desires are connected to the desires of the Cosmic Mother. What she yearns for, what each one of us yearn for on the deepest level, is what life wants. It will support our collective evolution. We've been taught for millennia that our desires are wrong and bad, a distraction. They'll take us astray. But the truth of our desires, what's beneath everything we yearn for, are the things that will help to create a world that works for everyone. I'm just going to take a moment to breathe into that. And I'd also love us to visualize that queen tending a fire. This is our internal fire of our life force. If you've ever tended a fire, you know you've got to put on a new log here and there, shift things around, offer some breath. Make sure you're on sturdy ground. Tending is such a sacred responsibility. And so many of our daily habits either contribute to stoking that fire or they put out the fire. they dampen. I'm going to invite you each to start to feel into what are the daily habits, the ways of being that either stoke your fire or dampen it. And I would love to invite us collectively, if it feels true, to take a moment of making a commitment to ourselves that we will do our very best to listen to our heart's desires, and to take the time and space to care for ourselves so that we can care for others in a good way, a sustainable way, a regenerative way, that we can be the examples, that we can model what those regenerative systems look like. With that, I would love to thank and acknowledge all of our benevolent, elevated ancestors who are cheering us on, knowing that we are who they prayed for, that we are the tip of the evolutionary cusp, the evolutionary arrow. Taking a moment to acknowledge those that are yet to come, next 7 generations. And acknowledging and thanking the elements and the directions, the spirits of the land where we are now, and the spirits of the land where we were born. Thanking ourselves for showing up and acknowledging each woman in the circle and in our greater circle, our families, our communities, humanity at large, and all of life on this planet, the plants and the animals, the minerals. Ask that all of this loving work that we're doing here together, may it be useful, helpful, and beneficial to the web of life. And so it is. Nahom Tagrioas, and thank you to all our relations. Take a few more breaths. And in your own time, and when you're ready, we can begin to open our eyes, coming back to the room, to the circle, to our space. You can take a moment and look around, orient yourself in your physical space. Do a good stretch. I see that, Maria. Looks good. Stretch our bodies. To yawn or just coming back. We're actually going to do a little dancing here in a little bit, but first we're going to do a quick moment to journal. And the journal prompt, but of course, whatever feels true. But my invitation is for you to start to describe, what did that queen of the womb look like? What did she feel like? That connection to your deeper heart's desires. What are those? And this is a space for you, please write completely, authentically. I would love, we'll have a time to share, but of course you share only what's true. But in this journal, this is for you. And then also that prompt around stoking and tending that fire. You know, what are the things that stoke that fire for you? And what are the things that dampen it? Gonna put on a song and we'll journal for about 5 minutes.
I call to the daughters of the raging seas that break before me. Hearts are opening, call to the women of the ancient trees that bend before me. Arms are opening, call to the sisters of the sacred flame that rise before me. Eyes are opening, call to the daughters of the winds of change that breathe your name. Can you hear them calling now? Ooh, 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 hey, 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 Jesus, come, child of the raging seas and the ancient trees, may your heart be open and come. Sister of the sacred flame and the winds of change, may your eyes be open and come to the fire and the raging seas and the ancient trees. Can you hear them calling to come to the wild, to the winds of change that breathe your name? Can you hear them calling now? Ooh, 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 hey, 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 I call to the goddess of the raging seas that break before me. Hearts are opening, call to the women of the ancient trees that bend before me. Arms are opening, call to the sisters of the sacred flame that rise before me. Eyes are opening, call to the daughters of the winds of change that breathe your name. Can you hear them calling? She says to come, child of the raging seas and the ancient trees. May your heart be open and come. Sister of the sacred flame and the winds of change. May your eyes be open and come to the fire and the raging seas and the ancient trees. Can you hear them calling to come to the wild, to the winds of change that breathe your name? Can you hear them calling now? Ooh, ooh, hey, hey, hey,
All right, we'll start wrapping up. Take another about 30 seconds to be completing your journaling. Inviting you to start to come back. If you, of course, want to complete your thoughts, we'll begin to orient back towards the circle and an invitation to start a little share. If anybody feels to share what came through for them in that meditation or in your journaling. And just as per usual, whenever you're ready, you can just unmute yourself and pop right in. Hi, Aliona. See you, Mama. Beauty. My sweetheart. Yeah, go ahead, Cosmica. Uh-huh.
So the vision that I had in the journaling was the vision of the queen in the womb, but then the queen inside of her womb, and then the endless cycle of manifestation of the tending of the womb. And within that came out kind of a manifesto of sorts, which was that she works in service of the cosmic womb. And then I went on into my like in sisterhood with different feminine frequencies that I work with. She's in sisterhood with them. And that's where I guess then that would mean that I am serving on the womb then of Pachamama. And I am in service of her. And then she is in service of something as well. So it was a really beautiful visual of what it's so simple what the purpose feels is. It's just to be in service of that. And then what stokes my fire just felt really much like anything that doesn't involve doing something that I don't want to do. Because I'm a generator, but I don't, and I'm just at that point now where I'm just like, if I don't want to do it, I just don't want to do it. I'm so sorry, and so it's doing things that I want to do and being really mindful of where that's coming from, because as you mentioned yesterday, the subconscious is so intelligent. I got to know her very well. She's very smart, little fox, and that's what she feels like. So I want to do things that just are coming from the womb. That's where my activation is in the sacral. And so anything that's coming from anywhere else needs to be reflected upon and then, misdirected another way. So it was just kind of cool to have all of that just accumulate right here in this moment. So thank you for the space.
Thank you so much. I love that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yes, that is the queen's job, is to be in service. So beautiful. I love it. And thank you, yes, for that. Again, that's all of our work to do, is to keep dropping deeper and deeper into what's actually true and where are these things coming from, the things that pull us in different directions. So if we can get down to that part of ourselves that is so much deeper again than the mind. And again, I say this so often, but I love the mind. I know a lot of people are like, oh, you're gonna totally, everybody wants to completely cut off and do away with the mind. I'm like, there's no part of ourselves that doesn't have a purpose, our mind helps us a lot, and we've got to get in really good relation, and make sure that she is not the one with necessarily the drive, holding the wheel. All right, Carol, excuse me. Carol, would you like to come and share? Thank you, Victoria, Cosmica.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to share this beautiful meditation. I feel like I received a message. I had this vision of I visited New York City back in 2016, and during the meditation, I was back there in Central Park, surrounded by people, and we were looking at a point on the ground. There were flowers, but I didn't see what was on the ground in my vision. So when I finished we finished the meditation, I had the feeling I had to look at my photos from back then to see what it was, and it was this star with Imagine.
Just got chills.
And I've got goosebumps just thinking about it. Yeah, I feel like it's a message, I don't know, for my guys or my higher self. So thank you.
I love that. I actually, this is so a bit random, but I'm going to share it in the chat here soon. I ended up watching the documentary. Do you know this? It's actually a Christian song, so you know you can take it how you do. But I Can Only Imagine. Do you remember that song? I'm just going to play the very beginning here, but it's just reminds me so much of that energy of Imagine. Can you hear? Let's listen to it.
Only imagine
So
what it
beautiful.
will be like when I walk by your side. I can only imagine what my eyes will see when your face is before me. I can only imagine. Yeah. Surrounded by glory, what will my heart feel? Will I dance for you, Jesus? Or in awe of you be still? Will I stand in your presence? Or to my knees will I fall? Will I sing hallelujah? Will I be able to speak at all? I can only imagine. I can only imagine. Only imagine.
I'll leave it there, but just thank you so much. I felt chills when you said that looking down at that, imagine that place of, wow, so much wonder and awe. Thank you, Carol. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Anybody else feel to share?
I can go. Hi, everyone. My name is Alexa. So this was a really lovely meditation for me. I'm very talented at reading other people's chakras, and reading my own isn't a forte of mine. However, in this meditation, I saw them so clearly, so clearly. So that was really cool. Really, really cool. And I got lots of insights with my throat, with my solar plexus. And so that was really nice. As for my wound, it was also really nice to connect with it. And my queen is actually resting. I saw myself in fetal position, and I feel very safe and comfortable at home. And when you, Maria, when you said tend to your fire, like I couldn't get up to do that, but I felt you come in and tend to my fire, and others coming in, because I just, yeah, I'm in such deep rest. And I wrote, I'm honoring my needs. I'm growing and filling my cup up, which makes sense where I'm at on my journey right now. So thank you.
Thank you. That brought tears to my eyes. Because goodness knows I've had so many moments where my sisters come in. Freaking take care of that shit when I can't, you know? So thank you. That to me is the definition of sisterhood. Thank you for sharing. Anybody else want to share? Aliona, did you want to come in, babe? Or you?
I'm super happy to come in and share, but I unfortunately came in after you announced the meditations.
That's okay. Hi. Hi, beauty. All right. Well, anybody else feel to share before we continue a little bit? I'm so happy that you're here, Aliona. Ali, did you want to do a quick share? No pressure, but just it's available if you'd like to.
Yeah, it was just so beautiful. I love that you're bringing the heart tending energy to the sister collective. I've been really feeling that. And just mentioning my native dad, Derwin, he in the TP always taught the sisters to run fire and door space. So we were trained in that way. And yeah, it's, yeah, such a magical experience to work with the sacred fire. And my sister Serena just bought this beautiful property in the Ortega highways here up in the mountains of Orange County. And so I was just imagining us creating this sacred space there for people here in this area to come pray with us on the land there and work with the fire. And we've been talking about how we're gonna bring the fire in. There's so much like fear around fire, you know, in California, and it's like such an interesting element right now, like the fear and how to keep it safe. And yeah, it's a really interesting thing. So to bring that sacred honoring to it, yeah, it's really interesting, you know.
I have such a cute story I'll share whenever you're done, but about
Yeah, that's it. So thank
Oh,
you for
thank you. I was just gonna share that when Isla's dad, Bear, I call him, when we first moved into our house in Northern California, the very first thing we did, we were like, oh, let's go do a fire, create a fire outside, right? And he used to be a firefighter, like back very young, like he was 18, but so he makes the whole thing super fire safe. He like puts all the water around and we start the fire and all of a sudden my phone starts blowing up and the landlord is like, what's happening? All the neighbors are sending him pictures. He's like, you got to put it out. It's not like it's apparently there's a time where you like can't have a fire outside and you can't. All of a sudden we hear the sirens. That was our welcome to the neighborhood. So everybody knows that we got the firefighters called on us. And of course they come out and he's telling them how fire safe it is and just showing them through his, process. But that we was just hilarious that was our first welcome to the neighborhood. We did not come in quietly. Let's just say that. I love it. Anyhow, thank you, Mama. Yes, tending the sacred fire. Again, I have men all around me that are fire keepers, and one of my dear friends down here is leads a beautiful ayahuasca ceremony every Saturday. It's one of the few that I've ever seen is in a temple that has a huge fire in the middle. And it's actually a woman who's the fire keeper. I mean, she's kind of non-binary, but she's born in the body of a woman and she tends that fire all night. And it's so inspiring for all of us women, because again, in the TP ways, we've been taught that that's the man's job. And it's really, really empowering and beautiful to connect more with that. So thank you for holding that energy and that beautiful sacred role. And I'd love to come and pray with you when you get that land. Okay, so on the chat that somebody else wanted to. Is that Aliona? Yeah. Aliona, I think you're our only Janet left. Everybody renamed themselves, just so you know. You can go in at the bottom where it says participant. We found out, Rebecca taught us last night, that you can rename yourself, so you can actually put your real name if you want to. If you prefer to be
Okay.
our last standing Janet,
No.
you're welcome to be as well.
Okay, great. I will do just that.
And did you want to share, Mama? Oh yeah.
Yes, so I just want to give a lot of thanks to the sacred fire. The sacred fire is such a beautiful, pure fire, and we've been in the process together with the sacred fire. Can you guys hear me?
You're a little echoey, but yes, we can hear you.
Internet is sometimes working.
Yeah.
Okay, great. We've been in the process of a very beautiful prayer, and our whole community has gathered with a lot of love. And here we've been having a fire for the past 40 hours.
Wow.
And always feeding the fire with cedar and with tobacco for a prayer for the, not just simply say for the best the best possible outcomes for all people in challenging situations of humanity. And we recently had a Mayan fire ceremony. So today we began the day with a Mayan fire ceremony. Mayan inspired, because it wasn't a Mayan person running it, but we honored all of the nahuales, all of the energies of all of the energies in the Quiche Mayan tradition. They have their own cosmology, and it was very beautiful just to give thanks to all the different aspects of life, to place candles for it, cedar for it, tobacco for it, sesame seeds, which represent abundance for it, and honey, and sing songs and dance around the sacred circle all together, and just honoring all those sacred energies. And today in Mayan, it's actually the day of Kame, which is the day of transformation and death. And so it's a really sweet, it's such a sweet moment, Maria, for you to hold and to lead a class and to move inside of this workshop, because we have so much opportunity today to shed the skin and transform ourselves. And then tomorrow is the day of like the strong deer that just like comes in as a guide, like stag. So it's just, I just feel the potency of this choice, the potency of this day, and yeah, just letting the things die that are, you know, need to die.
Yes.
So thank you so much for letting me share Sacred Fire. Much gratitude.
Mama, thank you. It actually reminds me, so I haven't really shared in this circle yet about our Andean medicine wheel, you know, and so much of the medicine wheel in the east, or excuse me, in the north, we start in the east, which is the new day. But in the south here, we actually start in the south, and the south is the serpent. So before we get all the way around to the new day, first we got to shed the skin, and the snake sheds her skin all at once. And so it's a really beautiful reminder that you're sharing this, and that we can bring this into the energy today of like, again, what is that skin that we are shedding? And what are we allowing to die and to compost? We talked a lot about death in the underworld yesterday, and I'm happy to keep on keeping on, you know, with that theme of like, again, what are we really committed to shedding? And how beautiful that when we shed that skin, we can offer it to the fire, and then the ash, you know, in many cultures, that ash is the fertilizer, right? Like in India, that sacred ash, it holds all of that potential for the phoenix, for that next iteration of our lives, of our beingness. And so that's another beautiful energy we can bring to our journaling, to our introspection of today, thinking about what we are really ready to shed and leave behind. Before we start to go into the celebratory energy. So I'll share a little bit also about the arc of the day. We have in about 45, or I can't see, 50 minutes, we have my sister Jamie coming in, who is the holistic sex coach. And so we're going to switch gears in about an hour to a lot of juiciness. And then the afternoon is a lot of celebration, because we're going to have two of my dear sisters who are both incredible singers. And they're going to be bringing in, we're going to do like a little virtual cacao ceremony, and we're going to do a soul song revival. So it's going to be a lot of celebration in the afternoon as we get closer to our completion for our 2 days together, which is just the beginning. I hope you ladies know the whole point of this is like, I want to create this community that we move together. So it's also a great time to talk about the week in the Facebook group. I'm actually decided that I'm going to wait and announce the giveaway on Monday. I'm going to have all the replays up, and we're going to have a little bit of a, not homework, but it's suggestions for ways to be integrating the information. I'm working on a Google Doc that has all the speakers, all those recommendations. Again, they had the mantras and the books and, you know, some of the different pieces that they were recommending. So you have a resource list. And so the invitation is to take the week to really be in the integration of all of the offerings from the different teachers, and to watch the replays if you missed any and things like that. So I definitely am hoping that we keep the good times rolling all together. But yeah, before we head into Jamie and the sexiness, that we have a little more time to talk. I was actually, first of all, let me just say, I wanted to open it up. I realized we haven't had a space for questions for anybody of any of the information that has was offered yesterday, anything that you're still integrating, chewing on, curious about. If you have any questions now, it's actually a really good time for me to answer any of those, if anybody has anything that feels alive.
I have many questions.
Okay. Let's go, girl. Okay, one thing I will tell you, I can't promise you I have answers, but I promise you we will unpack it together. I guess.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Like I mentioned yesterday, right? I landed here looking to like come more into my feminine, right?
Mhm.
My line of work is no joke when it comes to not being feminine.
Yeah.
Um, and when I was hearing or listening to Tash and to Lila, it really struck me like really, really hard in terms of how can I still do what I do, which I love. That's the interesting part. I love what I do. I still struggle
Mhm.
because of the nature of what I do is very unkind.
Mm.
I used to be, not anymore, but I used to be in the drilling team, like the people who will drill the wells. I was part of the technical team doing that on site.
Yeah.
And it's a very unkind industry. It's a very unkind way of doing things. And I'm like, how am I here?
Mm.
Like, and the fact that I'm extremely sensitive because I am, and then it's such a rough environment. It definitely make me rougher around the edges, I guess.
Mm.
Now, as I try to navigate this world in a different way,
Mhm.
like how do I do it? Because the only thing that I heard yesterday from me was like, I have to drop it all because I don't know how to bridge the two things. And it was very interesting, like the dialogue in my head in terms of we need a change from inside. And I guess that's part of why I'm here. But
Yeah.
I don't know how to make it happen. And I don't know where to start. And it's just like so overwhelming
Yeah.
overall. It's just like, how do I make this happen?
Mm.
What is next?
Yeah. Thank you, love, for sharing that. Those are big questions for sure. And I'll just begin by saying, the first step is that you're here, which is amazing. The first step is that you have curiosity and you have desire, and you're starting to identify where there's this chasm, right? I always talk about the Grand Canyon, like sometimes there's the Grand Canyon between where we are and where we want to be. And we can have those moments. It's like, how do I possibly do this? It feels so big. So I just want to first name that you're so brave. That courage to even begin to inquire in these things is huge, and just in full transparency, most people have so much cognitive dissonance that it's like, it feels so big and it's so scary that I can't even go there to think about it, so even just opening yourself to this is an incredibly big step. And again, what I can share is that so much of my work, I always think about the nuances. And sometimes when we're talking about these big topics, we go straight to the binaries, right? Where it's like, it's either this way or it's that way, right? And we want to go straight to the perfection of like, all right, yes, I'm going to change my whole life and I'm going to nail this thing, and life doesn't work that way. Right? I mean, not saying that you can't make big changes, but we have to take steps to get there. One of my mentors calls it transitional ethics. Of like, okay, when we're in a transition, how do we do that transition well? How do we honor, again, that we're here and then we want to go here, but also what happens in the in-between? So for example, I'm just going to say something that might be a very unpopular notion, but for those of us who are like, no more gas, no more drilling, it's like, well, what would happen tomorrow, right? It just say it as a thought experiment. If there was no more gas tomorrow, right?
Bad.
None of us can ever get on a plane again. You're exactly where you are. There's no more cars. There's no, you know what I mean? So again, sometimes it's like this part of us that is very righteous. It's like, down with all the systems. Do you know what I mean? Like we need a complete reform. But then people don't tend to think through like, well, what happens tomorrow if no one was paving the roads, right? Like what happens tomorrow if nobody was picking up the trash? I mean, we just don't think about these things. And so I think that's part for me of the humility of like, again, I'm a revolutionary. I want huge systems change. I'll be honest, I'm not talking small things. I want big changes. But I also have to humble myself to say, like, there's some of the systems that are really supportive, and if we got rid of everything all at once, we'd be in a really big chaotic mess. And yeah, we could go that route, but like, is that actually the most helpful, beneficial, you know what I mean, efficient way to get where we want to go? Or do we want to get really specific on which systems, do you know what I mean, are we going to change when and how? And so this is the more, if we want to say mature, maybe a little like less sexy, conversations around systems change. It's not the like, burn it all down, which again, we all have that part of ourselves. And then there's another part, again, so we got to vacillate. We got the part that's like, don't change anything because I'm terrified of change. And another part of us is like, burn the whole thing, and I'm such a proponent of the middle path of coming back to like, okay, what are, again, sustainable changes that we can make? And so for you, I'm just going to start to share a little of my own personal thoughts here. And again, take it how you will. But my question is there's manyfold, but one is, what parts of the job do you love? And is there maybe an industry, this is just a thought that comes through, but that you can use those same skills, to something that you believe is actually supporting, right, us to go where we want to go. So those are, but you can start to think about that. This doesn't mean you have to quit your job tomorrow. You can, but you don't have to, right? Is to start to, yeah, exactly. Is to start to think through like, okay, what do I want to be in devotion to? What bigger mission do I want to be in devotion to that still I can utilize these skills that I've honed in this job that I love? And if you do decide that you want to stay in that job, of course, that's up to you. And then the question is more like, how do you infuse these qualities inside of what you're already doing? Which is, again, for many of us, is like that quality. And this is, again, where the Dharma, people think like, oh, I've got to find my one purpose. My one, and that looks like a vocation, right? Like I'm only in my purpose if I'm doing the right job. That gets a lot of us, I think, into unhelpful thought patterns versus like, what is my way of being that I'm going to contribute to whatever I'm doing? Whether,
Yeah.
again, it's staying home as a mom, whether it's doing this job, that job, no job. I mean, whatever is true for you. But the qualities of your beingness. So again, if that's kindness, if that's, again, unconditional love, if that's compassion, I'm just naming things that to me are really beautiful qualities of the feminine that we can bring to anything we're doing, even if we've got to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and have a million deliverables, you know what I mean? Clock out at 7 p.m. or whatever it is that you're up to that maybe doesn't feel like I can just roll out of bed at 11 a.m. and, have a bath and like attune to my moon cycle. Like I get that that's not your. Yeah. So again, what are the qualities that you can begin to infuse? So I think a lot about, I think about this in entrepreneurship and also in life is like, how do we start right where we are with what we have now? Right? That's kind of like lean startup. It's like, all right, what do I have around me that I can implement and that is applicable to where I am right now? And so again, this is part of a deeper thought process for you, is starting to think a little bit about, where would I like to be in a year from now? Where would I like to be in 5 years from now? And getting honest with yourself. If there is a change of career, again, maybe you spend a year planning for that in a way that feels good and feels safe and feels thought out, that doesn't, and again, if you decide to stay in your career, then it's more like, how do I begin to infuse these qualities into what I'm doing now in a way that will support me to balance the two worlds? Let me know if that's feeling helpful.
Thank you so much. It's interesting enough, I have been out of the industry and I have done a lot of things in my career, but I always gravitate back to this. So, and not even from the logic, because from the logic, I rather, I don't know, I'd probably be doing something else. But I always come back because, like, from my heart, I want to be here. But then I look at it and I'm just like, wow, this is terrible.
Can you share? Oh, sorry to cut you up, but I'm curious, when you say your heart wants to be here, what is that? What part of that is, or if you could just be a little more specific about.
Yeah, I wanna cry. I don't know, I have been crying over it. This is hilarious.
Your tears are so welcome here.
So I guess the context is when I was deciding to go to college, I had many options. I went to college back in Venezuela actually, so it was like whatever you wanted to be, you could, as long as you decided to do something because you needed to be somebody. So, and you know how that goes. So, um, I started engineering school and I didn't know what path I was going to take because at the beginning it's the same for everybody. And then I thought I was studying chemical engineering. But actually, I applied for petroleum engineering, like in concept of what they were. I mixed them up. So I ended up in petroleum engineering, and I realized is probably when I started getting in specific topics and subjects for my career, and I realized I loved it. Like it just brings me joy. Like I don't know how to explain it. But then I guess between what brings me joy and what, like, my mind connection in between, it gets tricky, right? Because I love what I do. Right now, thankfully, I'm not in drilling operations anymore. So I am on a safe place actually in my career for the first time in, I don't know, almost 20 years. I am in a good place in terms of how much expansion I have. And it comes back even to what Tash and Lila were talking about, the being magnetic, the being seen. All these things are happening for me now, in the place where I am in my career and also in my workplace. But it's something that, like, I'm really passionate about what I do. And like you said, it's like I don't think the system can be burned down, even if I wanted to burn it out from inside out, because I actually know the implications. Like, for real, I know the implications, and I know it needs to be done different. I don't know what that different is.
Yeah.
I also know we are, like, stumbling across different options, and it's gonna be a while before, as humanity collectively, we figure out what is actually sustainable.
Yeah.
I know it's going to be a long process with the polarities that we experience. But from my heart, I just love what I do. And I don't know how to explain it.
Thank you.
And I don't know what I'm crying.
That's okay. We don't always have to know. That just means that your body is holding emotions that need to be expressed, and it will help you to clean and clear. I always think about cleaning the windshield wipers. Whenever I cry afterwards, I'm like, wow, I see everything so much more clear. I see Aliona wants to offer you something. But yes, your sacred tears are so welcome. It's such a way to cleanse and clear and release. It's part of the shedding of the skin. And maybe for you, again, in this moment, it's shedding some of this potential shame, if there's some guilt that you're holding because it feels like there's a dissonance between your mind saying this is a bad thing and your heart saying, I love this. And so it's okay to just acknowledge where you are right now. And so again, this is where I think that as humans, we do get into these stories where like that thing is bad and that thing is good. And then it puts us in really hard places because we don't fit into those binaries, right? And, again, I can only speak for myself as much as I was at Standing Rock. I am somebody who is very passionate about us changing what we're doing with the drilling and the petroleum. And I fly all over the world, right? I drive a car, not here, I don't, but it's like, I totally get that life would look a lot different if tomorrow we decided to try to shut everything down the way that it has been. But again, this is where I want to say that I think we're so brave for having these conversations, for acknowledging where we're all contributing to systems that we know need to change and being brave enough to like start to get curious about how can we change them.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Aliona, honey, I saw you with your hand up. Do you want to pop in?
Hi, sister. I just wanted to share a really beautiful teaching that that the elder of our tradition just gave. We were just on the phone with him. His name is Maestro Domingo Diaz Porta. He's 96 years old. He's so healthy, so vibrant, and always just on the highest plane possible. Like no matter what comes, it's like the teaching is, how can you be at the highest inside of yourself with it? That everything is just a test, in a sense, to support us to that real fulfillment of the heart that's calling us, that's within us. And it's not easy to get there. And we faced with these challenges, so that they say like a diamond is made, right? When it's like it's pushed into the making. And so before we become a diamond, let's say, bring into the feeling that like being a diamond would be this is totally resolved itself and you feel 100% in alignment. We get pushed on all sides, right, to get into the diamond. So like be uncomfortable about the situation until we just, and so everything that Maria shared is so right and so beautiful from my humble heart, in the sense of really following the middle path. She's so smart and so right about that. It's the teachings of so many of the sacred traditions to follow the middle path. And a really beautiful teaching that Maestro Domingo gave as well. He said that use the influence of the higher planes to influence the level of the lower planes. And what does that mean? It means you're such a powerful being. Your mind is so powerful. Like something is guiding you somewhere. So where do we reach for support? Like there's the practical aspect of it, which Maria shared so beautifully. And then there's like the spiritual aspect of it. That's like, I don't know, do you believe in God? Yeah. So give yourself there and ask, how come I'm having this feeling? And where are you trying to guide me? Because they're trying to guide you somewhere. And if we bring our awareness and our love there and our full heart, maybe we start getting answers slowly, and surprising magical things start to happen. Like one day we wake up and we just have wow, maybe it's a good idea for me to go visit this place. And you go somewhere that you never thought, and you meet someone that you never thought, and somehow there's a job opening and it's perfect and it's 100% in alignment. Like I'm talking about these miraculous little pieces that when we reach to the higher, because we can't do it all, like it's hard to do it all. Like we need some support, some help. So it's like reach up to the master that made us. That's constantly supporting us along the path. Like take the hand and you know. And so just wanted to make that offering for you, sister. And also lastly share that, you know, maybe also something is opening for you to, as Maria shared again so beautifully, small things like influence in a small way with your love. Like, wow, you just come there with your love to that place and you show up with your heart, with all the people there. And God bless me. I mean, love changes the world every single day with very small steps. And that's it. I just gotta leave it like that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. That was beautiful, sister. Thank you. I want to just see if anybody else has any questions, anything we want to bring to the circle here, anything you'd like to be witnessed in. And it's okay if not as well. There's some other pieces that I'm happy to share if we don't have anybody else who wants to pop in. Oh, I saw a hand there. This is Hermana Victoria. You want to come in?
Hi, sure, thank you. I couldn't figure out how to raise my virtual hand, so I was like,
It's like the real hand
actual
works too.
hand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it.
This is more of like a logistic and just like technical question. It's not a sharing, but in the meditation we just did, you called it a tantric meditation. Like why was it tantric? Like I just felt like a regular meditation for me. So I'm like curious, what's the definition of like something being tantric and not, if that makes sense?
That's a great question. I mean, for me, I will just share now that I'm so obsessed with Tantra, it's like everything's Tantra, and it is. This is the beauty of the Tantric path is you're like, oh, so many of the things I used to do, this is all Tantric. So one of the things that's different is so that beginning part where I had you visualize the waterfall of energy going down the back of the body. So my teacher, Katie Silcox, always talks about how, you know, in Tantra, we really want to like move the energy back and down. And so that seems really small, but it's a big distinction because again, in a lot of the yogic and like traditional meditation, we're going up, 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 and then out essentially, right? There's like this moment of transcendence where we are out of our bodies and we're connecting to the all that is, and maybe we want to stay there. And not saying that that's wrong by any means, but it's the difference between the tantric path, which is also again the path of the Mary Magdalene, which is the descent. She calls it the descent into the womb. So we did that kind of energetic, you know, opening with the chakras, we connected to the sun, but then we came back down and we descended again. So that's just kind of a small distinction of that descent, that kind of dropping down, 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 down into the body, into the earth, are some of the aspects of Tantra. But Tantra also is this weaving. So one of the definitions is literally weaving. So when we are, like I was sharing before, when we're connecting things that maybe in the past were defined as good or bad, like even in the stoking of the fire, it's like what dampens our fire and then what stokes it, versus this energy of like, again, where are you? Oh, you know, where are you identifying your limiting beliefs and like chopping them off and making them wrong and casting them away? You know, there's a lot of, I think I've shared this and maybe not in this container yet, but I see so much recently around this, like clearing and just letting things go. And yes, there is definitely, we're talking about, we want to shed the skin, but we want to shed the skin with awareness. To me, you know, if we just kind of willy-nilly try to just like, we're just releasing, you know, see a lot of people like doing catharsis, but it's like, but you're not actually having a completion. And again, this is what the Tantra was sharing, the Ayurveda is all about digestion. And to me, Tantra is all about digestion. So again, we're actually digesting and either assimilating what works for us, or we're eliminating what doesn't serve us, but we're doing it with awareness. Otherwise, we have basically these open tabs in our minds at times where we're like, I've talked about this before, you just close all the tabs on your computer and then you're like, well, shit, I had things I didn't finish. You know what I mean? Now I have to go back and open those tabs because I didn't actually complete the task. I just closed the tab. And so a lot of the work that I like to do in the meditations, maybe we didn't get as deep in this one. Sometimes the processes are an hour each, but is to go through and like actually have a completion process with some things versus just like chopping them off. I hope that's bringing a little bit more of a distinction, but I hear you that it can be like, well, that's just a meditation. Again, the tantric aspect is the digestion, it is the weaving together, it is the descent. These are some of the qualities of what we would define as tantra.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for asking. And again, actually, I also want to name, I think I shared this before, these are 3,000 to 5,000 year old lineages, and they have so many vast definitions that each one of us, it's like we also create, like yesterday when Brooke was like, this is what Tantra this is what it means to me, right? And then you ask a bunch of different practitioners, they would tell you different things because there's so many definitions, but they're the ones that feel really true for us and then how we deliver them. So this is more a Tantra through my lens.
That's why I was like, I've been Googling it. I'm just like, there's just like it's just a lot. So I'm just like, okay, I don't know quite how to like sift through it all, but I'll work on it.
Yes. Well, again, this is where I'm sharing, like, it's so amorphous. It's a little bit like the Tao Te Ching when they say like, you could give it 10,000 names, but even trying to name it, takes you away from what it actually is. And so, it's basically another word for what some people would call God, goddess, right? It's like, it's the all that is. And then now we're doing our best to define it and to, give it some structure and then to share it with each other. But this is another reason why it has to be an embodied experience. Because again, I also studied these ways for so many years where it was like still really intellectual. Again, I was also like Googling and reading the books and like, what does this mean? And then I had a moment where I was like, oh, now it's come alive in my system. And so the more that you join things like this, the more it will come alive in your system. Then you'll have a moment where you're like, oh, that's what Tantra means to me. And this is how it actually supports me and is applicable to me. So again, one thing I will share is like we were talking about yesterday with Allie, on the spiritual path, so often, again, we are, we're still putting ourselves in boxes around things that have happened to us or things we've done. And we're like, I don't know if you saw this, I made this post where it sounds so silly, but it's like, we all spend our lives in some manners, like trying to define ourselves. Again, like I made this post where it was like, am I a whore or am I a holy woman? This like is because a lot of things I've done in the past seem like they're not good things. I've had moments of sexual transgressions. I've also, Allie, like alcohol made me, not made me, contributed, to me making a lot of decisions that were not super healthy for my body, for other people. And so if I were to say like, well, those things that I've done in the past or that have happened to me in the past take me away from being able to be a holy divine woman, well then where am I? Where do I land? And so many of these other spiritual paths that I've gone on, they're still trying to like create such distinctions. And the tantric path was the first one that I came upon where it's like, yeah, you're both. And that's wonderful. You are a raw, primal woman who's gonna, make mistakes, and you're a divine holy being. And the two can actually exist. That's part of the wholeness. And so again, for me, once I started to embody the principles of Tantra, I was like, oh my God, finally, there's a path that says like, it's okay to be both. It's okay to be like a super hot mess human at times, and to also be able to connect to this divinity that is so beyond, you know, to be able to channel this wisdom. And again, it contributes to, like, as Ali was sharing, and a lot of women who've noticed, like, I've been sharing a lot more now. And that's because the tantric path has helped me to integrate these sides of myself. Whereas before it was like, who am I to say, you know, who am I to share this wisdom that I feel like I'm connected to because I did all these bad things in my life, you know, or all these bad things happened to me, or, you know, XYZ, whatever definition I might have of my own humanity that disqualifies me from sharing, you know. And so again, the tantric path is this alchemical unifying path that again says, like, I can't no, again, I guess that's where I want to be really clear, because it's so deep and so old, right? Again, so many of the spiritual lineages have said that to be in a woman's body is by default not spiritual. By default, you know, if you go back to the story of Adam and Eve, it's like the women are they're going to distract the men in bad ways. They're temptresses. They're going to go against the law, you know, the will of God. I don't know if you know this story of Adam and Eve. I didn't even fully realize this, but part of the punishment for Eve for eating the apple was that now women must endure the pain of childbirth. You are punished because you're a bad seductress, you know, and you wanted to know more than God wanted you to know. And I mean, this is like at such the core. So these stories is actually, I had, we had done a book club last month for this book called Cassandra Speaks. And it was just, wow, it's such a good book, Elizabeth Lesser. And it also is so confronting. She reads out of these texts from the more Orthodox Jewish and Christian and Catholic and what's the other, Islam. And I mean, in these core books, it's all like, it all goes back to women, it being like a curse to be born in a woman's body. And so all of that internalized, I have internalized that so much in my life. I can just speak for myself. And so this path for me has been like, okay, yeah, I don't have to transit. It's not like I can be spiritual in spite of being born in a woman's body. I can be spiritual inside of my woman's body, you know, in my womb, that part where we like go and connect to the cosmos through the womb. That's a tantric way, you know, versus again, like, oh no, I must cleanse myself because I've sinned as a woman. And now I must transcend to connect to a father God that is like going to absolve me of my sins for being in a woman's body, and for, in some cases, just in a body at all, right? Like, what, Jesus died for our sins. I mean, again, these are just my beliefs, but I'm just going to share this. It's like, wait a minute, you know, I see my nephews, it's something very personal, but my brother's married to a woman who's very Catholic, and she started taking my nephews to church so young. And from the very beginning, they were like having to go and confess their sins. And I mean, they were like 5 years old. Makes me cry, to be honest. It's like, you got to go and beg to be absolved of being a 5-year-old. It's like, anyhow, these are such deep and wide topics, but I hope I'm starting to just share a little bit of what drew me to these paths and why I think that they're so important. And again, this internal alchemy, even in the shamanic, always, why is it just me? I get all the effects. Hilarious. But I was, you know, again, I haven't even gotten to the full of my, you know, I shared a little bit of my story yesterday. I imagine most of you know. Sometimes I'm like, I don't know who knows what, but you know, I've spent the last 12 years fully focused in the shamanic world and really working deeply with the sacred plants. And again, I just see how many of us come to the shamanic world, to the plant medicines, to the shamans and the healers. I use this because, you know, not always the labels are correct, but to the facilitators. And again, we want somebody to fix us. Right? We want that medicine to come in and like do the thing, clean us up, you know, and it does in certain ways. But again, it's still a way that I see that we're giving away our power, or we go to a spiritual leader and we're like, you have all the answers for me. fix me up, you know, and we see it. We see those people, okay, get up with our feathers and we're gonna clean you up. We're gonna do the thing for you. But it's just another way. It's a new version. Well, not even new, but it's a different way of the same thing we've been doing. Especially again, as women, where we're like, let's give away to the power to somebody who knows more about me than I do. And it's totally, yes, like we need and we thrive on external information. You know, for me, I will share, for my birthday, I've made a post about this, but I called together the women who are the guest teachers plus some, and I think I got like 30 women together. And I was like, ladies, I want to know, what do you see? I want to know the things that you see, my brilliance that maybe I'm not seeing, but I also want to know the shit that maybe I'm not saying. Do you know what I mean? The like, where am I holding myself back? Where are some of my ways of being like not supporting? Where are my ways of being not honoring you as my sisters? Or, you know, whatever that is, like if you see something that's a blind spot that you think that maybe I'm not seeing, please share it with me. You know, so again, it's not that we live in these silos of like, I will never receive information from an outside source. But again, that's the beauty, right? It's not like we only are taking our information from the external or we're only in our own experience. We're always doing both. We're receiving information from outside, and then we're diving really deep into finding out what's true for us, you know, and we're also looking really deep, as I was sharing yesterday, about where are our own internal biases, because we all have them. And again, are those internal biases, is that our higher self speaking, or is that conditioning? Is that programming? Is that things that we have absorbed from the external that again, we actually then integrated in a way that wasn't, that maybe that was supposed to be part of the elimination, you know, but because we were young and we wanted to fit in, and we know this again from a survival standpoint, we know that like, if we don't feel like we fit in, we're worried that we're not going to survive at a deep level. You know, that sense of belonging is so important. And so what I love about all of these spiritual teachings and everything that that I've studied for years and that I bring to you ladies in humble nuggets is like there's a deeper belonging. You know, there's a belonging to God, to Goddess, to like again that thing in our bones that nothing can change. And that is, you know, all of my elders, that's what they teach. It's like, you belong absolutely, but maybe you don't belong in society the way that it's, you know what I mean? These collusions. This is basically, long story short, culture is like a whole set of unspoken agreements. And a lot of us that come in that we're like, I don't agree to that. Like I was saying yesterday, I'm never going to agree that plants are meant to be illegal, for example, right? I don't agree to that. That's a law, right? That's made like a legal agreement. But there's also other things that are more, you know, that are not necessarily written in the laws that I also don't agree. You know, a sister of mine made a post yesterday about her birth, and she was like, well, legally, I had to have transferred to a hospital at 72 hours. It's like, no. First of all, that's not written in the law books, but we've been told that because midwives are only, legally, they can't attend your birth past 72 hours. So because the midwife at 72 hours has to legally remove herself from the situation, and she has to recommend legally, she has to recommend that you transfer the hospital. But isn't that interesting? My friend internalized that as legally, I have to transfer the hospital at 72 hours. So not only is that not written in the law, but that I don't agree to that, whether it was written in the law or not, right? It's like a woman has the right to birth in her home no matter what. Do you know what I mean? So these are the type of things that it's like, wait a minute, these agreements, or again, these agreements, as I've been sharing more, like, yeah, I'm a highly sexual creature and I'm a medicine woman. And in the past, I was terrified to share these multiple sides of me because it was like, what are people going to think? Because that's an agreement. If you're a medicine woman, you act and look like this. If you are, you know, highly sexual being, you act and look like this. And I've never seen anybody publicly claim both. So I'm not saying that that doesn't happen. I just hasn't been in my sphere. So there are these ways that we're basic, but again, so the point is that the tantric path has allowed me to rest in what I know to be true, which is I'm perfect exactly as I am. I'm perfect being those both, you know, both of those. And I'm going to claim that because I know where I belong. Maybe it's not to those people who think differently than I do, you know, but I know where I belong from a spiritual place. And so again, this is more a part of the tantric path, and what I want for every woman is to claim who she actually is, even if it goes against what culture tells you. Alexa, hi Annie, did you want to ping in? Thank you, Victoria. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing all of this. I'm taking notes and it's very insightful.
Thank you.
I have a question in regards to my journey and where I'm at, if that's okay.
Of course, absolutely. We have about 15 more minutes. I'm super happy to keep
Yeah.
answering questions.
Okay, good. So I was introduced to plant medicine for the first time in January. I did ayahuasca for the first time. And it was a retreat where there are 4 ceremonies per week. And after the 4th ceremony, I had uncovered something really big and just I didn't feel comfortable to leave. I didn't feel complete, and I ended up staying a second week. So I did 7 ayahuasca ceremonies.
Mhm.
And ever since I've been back, it's been integrating and resting, and there was the eclipse, and I've been resting a lot. And for the past 15 years, I always have travel plans and I'm always somewhere.
Mhm.
And I haven't felt a calling at all to book any trips for the summer or even the fall. Well, actually, that's not true. I'm feeling super called to do iboga, which is why I'm on. I guess I heard of this course this weekend through Elizabeth. So I'm doing iboga at Sol Centro. And so my question to you is, not only am I not able to make any travel plans, I'm not able to expand my business. So I'm a spiritual guide, and it's just, I have my regular clients that I'm able to serve, but I'm not able to, I guess, find creative ways or programs to put out there. And I was just wondering if you have any insight to share in regards to this phase that I'm in. It feels like everything's on pause.
Yeah, absolutely. I hear you. I've been there so many times. I mean, again, I think of that as just like a total deconstructing, you know, becoming goo inside of the chrysalis. And in that place of the goo is like, you're goo. A goo doesn't work. Goo is goo, you know, and but it holds all the imaginal cells, right? So I don't know if you know this. When I learned this, I was like, what? I always thought that the caterpillar inside the chrysalis just sprouted wings, you know, they kept the same little body and sprouted its wings. But no, it actually completely dissolves into goo. And then in that goo is the imaginal cells, and literally called imaginal cells. And then they reconstruct into the butterfly. And so when you're in those places of dissolving, it's like, well, that's just where you are, you know. And I will share, it's a very privileged place to be, right? We have to name our privilege. And I have been there many times in my life where I was privileged enough to do that and still have my bills, you know, paid for. Because many people are not able to, right? It's like, I don't have the privilege. I have children, I have bills to pay. Do you know what I mean? I can't just be goo. I got to actually do something. So first of all, I just want to name, you know, that it's beautiful that you have that privilege, that you have that opportunity to be goo. I mean, iboga is definitely never was there more a goo-like state than iboga. I will share, you know, maybe we don't have enough time to get fully into that, but I've worked with 3 flood doses of iboga in my life, and holy moly, it's, you know, it's like all 7 of those ayahuasca ceremonies plus some, you know, in a night or a few days. So the fact that you're feeling called to that is, you know, is extreme, and like that's the kind of people we are, right? Like, we're like, oh, I'm already goo. Why don't I go even deeper, you know, into the goo-like state? So I just again want to name that those of us who have this impulse, and that's what I was sharing about Taj yesterday. She posted that meme that I loved. It was like the feminine impulse to shed her skin again and again and again and again. It's like, you know, sometimes we're going to take it like Maria's taking it, which is like really slow and really, you know, take it really step by step and like make a plan. And then there's the times where, and I've been there with you, Alexa, where it's like, I'm going to do the whole damn thing right now. So I just want to honor that that's your impulse and that's where you're at. And it can be very destabilizing for sure, you know, and just knowing that you're making that conscious decision to be in a very unstable place by definition of melting into goo and being a pile of imaginal cells. So as long as you are keeping that North Star of like, yeah, when I reconstruct into the butterfly, it's going to be better than ever. And yet I know that I'm consciously going down and working at Soul Centro, you're saying like, I'm fundamentally wanting to destabilize myself more before I stabilize. Does that make sense?
It does. A part of me wants to make sense of all of this rationally, right? And I'm like, well, do I need to wait before I do Iboga? Because this is a lot, like what I'm going through right now is a lot. And I'm super grateful to be able to have the space to honor me. But also I'm like, I need to start making money because I need to, you know, make a living and keep supporting myself, right? And so two questions. In regards to like timing, how can I allow myself to surrender and really trust my path? And for Iboga, and I can also speak to Elizabeth about this, but I'd like to hear your input. In regards to like time frames, should I wait for the summer to pass before I do this, or should I go ahead right now?
I'm going to share, and I'm curious, I imagine Aliana has a thought on this too, but one thing I will share is that the medicines do really, in my humble opinion, love their space, you know, and the fact that you just had 7 really deep grandmother ceremonies, you know, she is with you, she is in you, you know, again, sometimes we think about, this is just some of my elders and I also feel this way, that if we think about them as personalities too, they are alpha, right? They are like, they want their moment to shine, right? And so we do say a little bit like grandmother, she's a little bit celosa, she's a little bit jealous. And I experienced this when I did Iboga, that the Iboga was also like ripping those kind of like ayahuasca serpents out of me. And so anyhow, there is a good moment to just, I have done both. I will be fully transparent. I have been that one where I did my Iboga flood dose and then I went straight to work with one of my abuelas in Colombia with Yahe. And they had told me not to, but I was serving, I was serving combo at a retreat, so I was working. And I went, I told my grandmother, like, I'm not really supposed to drink. Yeah, hey, I just did a blood dose. And she was like, it's okay. And I did. I tried to ask her for a little bit and she gave me a bowl. I was like, you know, not saying that, you know, I took it. But I've done it both ways. I've had a lot of space and then I had Iboga and ayahuasca be very separate. That felt really good, you know, for me on the path. But again, I was more like 10 years into everything to do them much closer, like a week apart. But I do think if you had a choice, you know, to give that space again. So if you think about, you just deconstructed so much with the 7 ayahuasca ceremonies and you're in this resting and rebuilding. If I were to have a humble opinion, I would say ride that wave a little bit longer, right? Kind of stabilize. This is where we think about creating a solid foundation. Like you have the choice to create a foundation from all the information you just received and all the healing that you're still integrating, and keep integrating that. I love Aliona's over here like, yes. She says in the chat, I agree with Maria 100%. Yeah. If you have the privilege and the opportunity to wait, you know, the Iboga is not going anywhere. Soul Centro is not going anywhere. I love Elizabeth and Chor so much. They are there, you know, they are like committed to this path for the rest of their lives. So you can go see them anytime. So if you had, you do have a choice, but if it feels true for you, I would say take more time, integrate what you have, get a little bit back into the world of, you know, getting your foundation of your finances and not putting yourself in an unnecessary precarious place where maybe again then you don't have that privilege and all of a sudden you put yourself in a bad situation. So yeah, my humble opinion would be to wait.
I hear you. Thank you. That's what I'm feeling as well.
Mhm.
In regards to me like reconstructing everything right now, is it always the case after ayahuasca, and will, or could it be the case as well with iboga after?
Yeah, I mean, I can't, it's hard to say always to anything. What I experienced after very strong blood doses of iboga was that it did take me time afterwards, because again, there was such a fundamental deconstructing. And again, they call iboga the Mount Everest for a reason. And I will be fully transparent. I was very resistant to calling any, I'm always the one again that I'm like, there's no hierarchies here. We have all the medicines are on the same plane, you know? It's like we got the bufo and ayahuasca, the wachuma, and everything's on the same. And then the first time I did a blood dose of iboga, it was like the tree of life literally grew out of my body, and it was iboga, and on the tree of life was like, oh, there's the mushrooms and there's the ayahuasca. It was almost this like, oh, it's cute, you know? This is just my humble experience, you know? There was no, there's nothing subtle and small about iboga. It is like, it's the real, I mean, they're all the real deal in their own ways, but it's, yeah, it's not for the faint of heart. It's something you really want to take some serious time to integrate after. Again, that's my humble opinion and my own experience.
Got it. And with ayahuasca, is it typical to have this reconstruction afterwards, or can I take it and then it be really like uplifting and I'm super productive?
Yeah, again, I think it just really, it depends where you're at, you know, and again, one ceremony is different than 2 weeks of 7 ceremonies, right? And so I think that there are absolutely different applications, and there are different moments, you know, where we are. And if we are in a moment where, again, this is where I think it's important to remember that the medicine is really meeting us where we are. And so if your psyche was in that moment, like, again, I'm ready to shed the skin all at once. And then there's the opportunity at times to go into a ceremony with a deep communication of like, yeah, I'm ready to celebrate a little bit, you know, or I'm ready to have more clarity. I'm ready to integrate a bit more what I've experienced. But there are also medicines that I think are more specific. This is my humble opinion again, but things like medicine like wachuma is a really supportive, integrative medicine, because it helps you, like mescaline is so, it like brings you so fully right here, right now. So it's like if you've received enough from the visionary realms and now you're still like sorting through all these different visions and all this different information, you know, a medicine like wachuma is going to help you like come fully present. It's a walking integration. It clarifies things so much. And so, yeah, I think that's what I would share. Again, this is just all my very humble opinion. Please, as you continue to integrate what's true for you. And again, maybe it's a moment of no medicine. Maybe it's the moment of, again, integrating through practice. And this is something actually, perfect moment, Aliona, I'm going to share. You know, so much of even the yogic and the tantric path, what has helped me so much is realizing like, I also went through this phase multiple times with the medicines where it was just like ceremony after ceremony after ceremony. And yet the practices to carry me through, to actually help me to integrate everything, were missing. And so this is why Aliona, as my sister, who I bow to, is like the queen of practice. She's like, what are we doing in between all this ceremonial work? And she's somebody who's deeply devoted to the ceremonial work, but she's equally as devoted to the daily practices. And so she and I have actually been putting together a 21-day practice course, which I'll share more with you ladies this week. But it's, again, it's like, what does integration actually mean? It means like, what am I doing every single day, completely sober, that is helping me to ground, to, you know, again, assimilate all this information, to feel more joyful, to be more clear in my mind, body, and spirit, and then to be able to offer that to the world. Right? Because we have to have that clarity, that alignment, that grounding, that, all the things that our daily practices will bring to us. And again, we're in this world, and I'm part of it too, of this, like, it's the medicines are really, they're becoming more, they're so cool, right? It's like, of course we want to like have the fireworks, and we want to, have all these visions, and we want the big peak experiences. But again, those peak experiences without the daily practices are just going to create a life of instability. I've seen it many, many, many times with people on the medicine path, where it's just like, it just becomes chaos because it's not actually integrated. And I know, again, we use the word integration a lot, and I think people are like, what does it mean to integrate? Well, this is what it means: being committed to your daily practices and showing up for yourself every single day to do the things that are going to help you to become more grounded, more clear, more confident, more in your body, and more able then to offer that to the world and create true change. Yeah, that's my thoughts. Yeah. Thank you, Alexa.
Thank you.
Right, ladies. Does anybody have last thoughts? We're getting to the time when actually I'm not sure. Is Jamie, are you on? Is Jamie here? Yeah, she is. Mama,
I'm here.
hi, babe.
Hi.
We've been sitting for 2 hours. I think
Yeah.
there might be a moment for a potty break, have a glass of water. Maybe we come back with like one song of a dance, so we just move our bodies.
Yeah.
How does all that sound for you?
That sounds great. Great. I'm gonna open with a dance. That sounds so fun. Yes,
So good to
absolutely.
meet. Does that feel good to everyone? Thank you so much, ladies. That was such a beautiful, again, my heart just like blossoms. This is the thing I love the most, is getting to know each one of you so much deeper. So thank you for opening your hearts and minds and bodies and spirits to connect deeper. So I'm going to stop the recording, and we'll take a brief moment. Thank you. Feel free to use the restroom, and we'll be right back.